Welcome everyone to the public information meeting. Today is August 10th, 2020. I'm Paul Spicer. I'm the counselor for District 5, and I have with me Will Robinson Muscat, our municipal planner, and he will describe in full detail the purpose of this information meeting. So, Will, you've got the floor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Spicer. So this is a public information meeting for a planning application to amend an existing development agreement. This application comes to us from Michelle and Jason Dingwall at 440 Canaan Road, Nicholsville, file 20-08. Let me go back here. So the the purpose of the meeting is to inform the public of the application at hand, to explain the planning policies that enable this application to occur, and to receive preliminary feedback from members of the public. And I'd like to note that no opinions have been formed on this application. The proposal. So in July of 2018, a development agreement was approved by council to permit tourist commercial uses, including tourist accommodations, tourist cabins, and an indoor event venue at 440 Canaan Road. And the application is to permit the development of a deck, which would be affixed to the existing barn that's used for the event venue use. And the proposed change to the existing development agreement requires a substantive amendment to the existing development agreement. So what is a development agreement? A development agreement is a legal contract between council and a property owner, and it restricts the developer to the use or types of uses outlined in the development agreement, and it allows council to exercise more specific control over not only the type of use or uses, but over the character, form, and maintenance of the development. Development agreements run with the land. That is, the conditions do not cease if the land changes ownership. And depending on the terms within the agreement, amending the agreement requires a planning process and approval by council. So this is a map of the municipality of the County of Kings. And you'll note in this red circle here, that is the approximate location of the subject property within the municipality. Here's an aerial photograph of the subject property. So you'll notice it has frontage along Canaan Road, approximately 1,100 feet. And the subject property is about 28 acres in total area, although the development envelope, the portion of the development that the use is controlled by the development agreement occurs, is considerably smaller than the 28 acres. This is a future land use map of the subject property and surrounding areas. And so you'll note that the subject property and the lands generally to the east of the subject property are designated for agricultural use, whereas the lands directly abutting the subject property to the west and going further west are designated for resource uses. This is a zoning map of the subject property, so you'll note that the subject property is zoned A2, the rural mixed use zone, which is a zone that allows for agricultural uses primarily, and then other uses as well, where agricultural uses take precedence. The N1 zone directly to the west of the subject property, which is the resource zone, and there's a property about 3 or 4 properties down that is zoned M3, which is the rural industrial zone. This is a photograph of the barn on the subject property, so that is the indoor event venue. That's looking to the east. This is a property, this is a picture of the barn kind of from the opposite side. So you'll note stairwell up to the indoor event space, and the dwelling on the subject property kind of in the background there. This is a picture of the foundation. So this is where the deck is intended to be constructed, kind of affixed to the barn, just to the on the left-hand side of this photograph. And this is a photograph actually of that same area looking directly to the barn. And so you'll note there's kind of a door in the middle, just kind of above that foundation area, and that would obviously be renovated so it could be used as a kind of a go between the indoor and outdoor space for the event venue. This is a photograph of the house on the subject property. So that is where the tourist accommodations are. And then this is the site plan for the existing development agreement. And in terms of the site plan, nothing really is intended to be changed. The cabins would still be part of the development agreement, the dwelling, which would form the tourist accommodation. You'll note the area for parking, for guests, for events. And you'll note there's an area, a little hatched area labeled building. So that is the barn for the indoor event venue, and then the area directly next to it, that's foundation, and that is where the deck would be intended to go. And the use being sought, that being the deck, would be written into the existing development agreement. So terms within the existing development agreement. The following matters are substantive matters. The use is permitted on the property listed in section 2.2 of the agreement. The current development agreement lists the special event use as indoor and does not consider a deck as part of the use. Therefore, a substantive amendment is required to permit the development of the deck as part of the event venue use. With regard to the policy review, bylaw 105, municipal planning strategy, policy 2.5.13. Consider only by development agreement proposals for visitor-oriented developments not permitted as of right. In evaluating development agreements, council shall be satisfied A, that the proposal is oriented towards the visitors or traveling public, such as restaurants, event venues, or other types of attractions. Subject property has a lot area that can accommodate the proposed use, accessory uses and structures, parking, and required infrastructure. C, that the site facilities are adequately buffered and or separated from the surrounding residential dwellings. D and E in this case are not applicable as they pertain to properties within the shoreland designations and shore zonings. And F, that the proposal meets the general development agreement criteria. And these criteria are municipal planning strategy policy 5.3.7. So these are the criteria which all planning applications are evaluated against. That the proposal is in keeping with the intent of the municipal planning strategy. That there's no negative or undue financial impact on the municipality. That the land use is compatible for the proposed uses. That there's adequacy and proximity of school, recreation, and community facilities when applicable. That a development would not create traffic hazards or excess congestion. That there's adequate fire protection for the proposed use. That there's adequacy of sewer or water services when applicable for the proposed use. That the proposed use would not create the potential for flooding or other serious drainage problems. That there would not be negative impacts on wells or other groundwater supplies. That pollution, including soil erosion and siltation of watercourses, is examined. That there be no negative impacts on lake water quality or wetlands. No negative impacts on native farming operations. And that finally the site is suitable in terms of physical and topographical conditions. So grades, soils, geological conditions, the location of the proposed use towards water courses, marshes, bogs, swamps, and the proximity to utility right-of-ways. So I should note, just returning to that slide and that development agreement criteria, as part of staff's review, we look at all of the conditions within the general development agreement criteria and seek comment from internal and external agencies where necessary and applicable. So in terms of the development agreement process, so a completed application has been received, and a video of this meeting would be posted online to the municipality's active planning applications page and will be available for viewing for 30 days. And members of the public can submit questions and comments with regard to the proposed amendment to the development agreement. Following the completion of the online public information meeting, staff would complete a review and draft a report. There's no area advisory committee for this for the subject property in this particular area. So once staff's review is complete, the report will be forwarded on to Planning Advisory Committee with a recommendation to the Planning Advisory Committee. Planning Advisory Committee would make a recommendation to Municipal Council, upon which initial consideration would be held and a public hearing would be scheduled. The public hearing would be held, which is another opportunity for members of the public to comment on the final report and the final application, and then final consideration would be conducted by Municipal Council, where a vote to approve or deny the amendment to the existing development agreement would be taken. And finally, there would be a 14-day appeal period to the URAB as mandated by the Municipal Government Act. The public hearing is advertised in the local newspaper, and properties within 500 feet would be notified for the public hearing. With that, I invite members of the public to submit questions and comments. They can reach me at phone number 902-690-6173, by email at wrobinson-mushcat@countyofkings.ca. And finally, they can also go to the active planning applications webpage. So that's at www.countyofkings.ca/planning. And that concludes the presentation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Robinson Muscat. You did a superb job as always. I have nothing else to add, so I'm going to call this public information meeting adjourned.